بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. يبدو أنه اللي جايين من المدينة متأخرين نتيجة الزحمة، لكن حنضطر نبدأ وفقا لجدولنا. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. مثل ما أمس بدأنا أمس يعني تحدثنا في 3 جلسات متتالية، وكان الحديث حول أولا تعرفي برنامج الدولي لتقييم الطلبة فيزا، ثم تم الحديث حول تجارب بعض الدول، ثم أيضا بدأنا يعني استمعنا أيضا المداخلة من البنك الدولي، وأيضا في نفس الوقت كانت مداخلاتكم أثرت كثير من المواضيع، وبدأنا نسمع تجارب الدول من هنا وهنا. حنبدأ الآن ببرنامج العمل اليومي في هذه الجلسة الصباحية، وحأترك لرئيسة الجلسة السيدة سمية مغنوج لكي تدير جلسات اليوم. تفضلي سمية.
Good morning, everyone. So I will try not to take too much of your time before giving the floor to Anne Looney for the first presentation. Just to give you a bit of an overview of why we're having a discussion on classroom and school practices within a discussion of PISA. PISA is international assessments or national assessments in general give you an overview at the system level of what are the policy tools that influence and that can impact performance and equity and outcomes of your education system. One of the findings of PISA is that for classroom assessments that provide good quality feedback to students have a positive impact on performance. At the OECD, we have worked for the past 5 years with 30 countries on studies of evaluation assessment, looking at what are these best practices, what actually influence performance and equity in the country. So in this, we will be looking at evaluation assessment in 2 steps. We will first look at classroom-based assessments on the first before the break, and then after the break we'll come back and talk about other types of policies within the school, which are around teachers and school, that also impact both performance and equity. And so what we'll do is we'll have first a presentation from Anne Looney that will provide an overview of her experience on classroom-based assessment, and then we will have comments from countries, and then we will have a general discussion around these practices.
Thank you very much, Samaya. Good morning, everybody. I'm very pleased to be here, and I really enjoyed the debate, discussion and insights of yesterday. So I'm looking forward to some more today as we move the debate a little bit from, as Samaya said, from the PISA issues to what are the things that systems do that are improving the quality of their education systems. And one of them is, as Samaya said, the quality of the assessment that happens within classrooms. So therefore we're very much now talking about the assessment work of teachers. I'm going to draw on my own experience in Ireland, and then last year in spending a year as a researcher working in the field of assessment in Australia. In Ireland, the focus of our attention at the moment is on lower secondary education, which is a very interesting place to think about classroom-based assessment. And in Ireland at the moment we're attempting to move our focus away from external examinations towards classroom-based assessment. Now that sounds straightforward, Nobody likes examinations, too much pressure for students, too much backwash into the classroom. And research tells us that classroom-based assessment is very powerful for learning. So it should be easy. It should be easy to say, let's do less external examinations and let's do more classroom-based assessment. Actually, it turns out to be really difficult. And it turns out to be really difficult in a lot of education systems for a number of reasons. Certainly it was clear yesterday that we live in an age of assessment and measurement. We have new tools that enable us to assess and measure in ways that we never had before. And there is no doubt that the grade, the number, is highly valued. At the end of our discussions yesterday, we talked about how systems might start to game PISA, attempt to prepare students for the questions in order to increase their score. So there's a tremendous focus on the grade and the number. And certainly in an Irish context, that is true. At the end, when our examination results are published, newspapers run headlines and features on the students who get the best scores and the highest marks, and the schools that produce the students with the best scores. We never see a newspaper headline that says, here's a student who did reasonably well and is also a very happy person. The focus is always on that final number and the grade. Yet we say it's not everything, but it's very powerful. We know that in classroom assessment, which I'm going to use as a word for formative assessment, we know that in classroom assessment, that giving, as Sumaya said, the quality of feedback that's given to students is really significant in improving those grades, those final numbers, but also in improving the quality of their engagement with learning. Yet, ironically, in driving improvement to produce the final score, we often undermine the classroom practices that give us quality education. And that, to me, is that tension in the system. We're pulled towards the final score in the measure, yet we know that it's not the final score that is the best measure of quality and engagement. And most modern education systems are grappling with this tension. Let's remind ourselves of the research findings. They're probably very familiar to everybody in this system. I now realise I may have loaded up my wrong PowerPoint, but I'll deal with that in a moment. That they're very familiar to this in any education system. We know that research, and I have an updated PowerPoint that has the researchers on it. So Black and William, John Hattie, work by the Sutton Trust. We know that the research tells us that if you are clear about the learning outcomes, we know that if you give high quality feedback and tell students what the next steps are, and that high quality feedback does not mean good answer. Very well done. Congratulations, you've done that very well. We know that high quality feedback is detailed. It tells students exactly what their strengths are and what their next steps they need to take is. We know that high quality questioning is important. And I've heard a great metaphor for better classroom questions. Less table tennis and more basketball. In other words, instead of the classroom looking like a table tennis game, I ask a question, you answer me, I ask the next question. It needs to be more like a basketball match, where I put out one really good question, and then the students pass it round among each other before we arrive at an answer. But yet, in many classrooms, certainly in Ireland, when you go into the classroom, very often you see a lot of table tennis, and only rarely do you see really, really good basketball. And finally, what research tells us is, for students, self-assessment, students learning how to assess their own work, recognising quality in their own work, and in peer assessment, where they get to evaluate other students' work, is also very significant. And it's also very significant in bringing a learning and assessment culture in classrooms.
التعلم في الفصل مهمة. ثقافة التعلم والتعلم الذاتي من جانب الطلاب.
I also want to remind ourselves of the theories that underpin a lot of the work on assessment for learning. And in particular, and I know many people in the room will be familiar with this, but when you talk to teachers about assessment in classrooms, and you present them with these small technical interruption, I found it, thank you. When you present them with the work of Carol Dweck, can I take 1 minute just to switch the PowerPoint presentation? Can I ask you, in the spirit of good assessment, can I ask you for a moment to think of your own classroom contexts, where in your own countries, and work out the percentage from your experience in average basketball versus table tennis? Are there schools where you're more likely to see table tennis for younger children, or schools where you're more likely to see basketball? And take 1 minute just to think about this. Perhaps talk to the person beside you and think about, do we see more basketball in our school systems, or do we see more table tennis? And I'm just going to switch the PowerPoint over.
Football more than basketball.
Football, no, table tennis. Football, table. So do you get the image? Table tennis, questions back and forth, or basketball? Which is more common? Apologies, folks. Actually, I need my laptop. Sorry about this.
You need any help?
Yeah. No. What I need is if I get my laptop, I'll transfer the presentation. Just the keyboard. Yeah. I have it here. Yeah. There you go. Great. Thanks. Yeah, I do need some help actually. Would you just grab somebody for me? Thanks.
مشكلة فنية أحتاج إلى مساعدة.
Maybe can I help?
Sorry, can you? Yeah, the PowerPoint on the key. If you can transfer it, this is the wrong one. So I need to get that one off, and it needs to be the PowerPoint that says that's now on the key. Go to D. Presentation. It's the one that says presenter. Presenter. Getting me on the grade, presenter. That's the one. Thank you. Okay, I'll open that one instead. Lovely, thank you. Slideshow. Can we get to slideshow? Thank you. Sorry for that technical hitch. So, quick check. How many people, is there anybody here thank you very much. Is there anybody in the room who feels that in their system they actually see quite a lot of basketball in classrooms, quite a lot of students sharing questions, asking each other, and if they do, which sector of the system are you more likely to see it? Anybody got a view? Yeah, we have someone over here.
Yeah. Sometimes it's neither of them. Squash, maybe.
Squash. Aha, interesting. You mean the teacher speaks and nothing comes back?
Yeah.
Okay, so now we have another metaphor.
But based on our experience in our schools.
Yeah, okay.
It depends on the cycle. For cycle 1, from 1 to 4, more likely to be like basketball. But from 5 to 12, it's like table tennis.
I think, thank you for that observation, and I think that would be the experience of many systems. And it's ironic that it is in the early years that the children are often more engaged in their learning, more likely to ask questions, and as they become older in the system, more adult, more active in citizenship, we expect more of them. In schools, they become silent. They become either the table tennis players or perhaps just the observers in a teacher's game of squash. Carol Dweck, a psychologist, has developed a set of theories around mindset. And when you're presenting this to teachers, they all recognise this in their students. Many of you will have come across these theories before. But Carol Dweck, thank you very much. Carol Dweck differentiates between a fixed mindset and a growth mindset. And she says that when students are faced with complex tasks and they try them, and this is especially in mathematics, and they're not succeeding, they think, I am not good at this. If they make a mistake, I am not good at this. Or if they get a complex task, they simply say, I cannot do this. It is too hard. And if they succeed and do well at a test, they say, I am smart. Now, all teachers can recognise this in their students and in their classrooms. Whereas Carol Dweck says if you have a growth mindset, you react differently as a student. If you make a mistake, you think, okay, what can I learn from this for next time? If I get a complex task, I say to myself, what strategies do I need to use to do this job? And if I experience success, I don't think I am smart. I say, great, how do I do better next time? When you work with teachers and you present them these theories, they like this. They go, this is true. And most of our students are squash players. Most of our students have a fixed mindset. I can't, I won't, it's too hard. And teachers like the theory and they go, this is true. What they don't like is Carol Dweck's next theory, which is that mindset is not a given. It is a result of what teachers do in the learning environment. In other words, students learn that they cannot succeed. They learn not to respond to questions from the way they are engaged in classrooms. They do not come to school like this. In many of our school systems, they have actually learned not to ask questions and not to engage. And we think in Ireland that that is particularly interesting and a real problem for us. So, as a result in Ireland of an extensive piece of research where we tracked a cohort of students right through post-primary education, we began a process of moving from the external examination to a greater focus on classroom-based assessment, to get beyond the focus on the grade. Because when we asked students, why are you playing squash? Why are you playing table tennis? Why are you not engaging? When we began to interrogate students' experience, they quickly said, but we don't need to engage, because all we need to do is pass the exam. If all you value is the examination grade, then I don't need to do any work. I simply need to get coaching for the examination, or take the notes that the teacher gives me for the examination. And actually, one of the really interesting findings from Carol Dweck's work is that students can believe that it is the job of the teacher to work hard, but it is not their job to work hard. And increasingly, there's a famous line which says that schools were becoming places where students go to watch teachers work hard, instead of places to go where students are supposed to work hard. So when we began in Ireland to make the changes, we realised that four things we needed to tackle, four things we needed to work on. The first one was public engagement. It was extremely important that we got a message out to the general public that because we were scaling back the examinations and doing fewer external examinations, this was not lowering standards. So newspaper headlines ran and said, NCCA, my organisation, is going to dumb down the education system. Students are going to be told to ask more questions. People wrote to the newspapers, and some people said, this is not education. Education is a place where children should learn from experts. Why would students ask questions? So we had to do a campaign to tell the public that it was a good idea. In fact, quite a lot of parents were very supportive of the changes because they recognised too that even at home, their children were becoming squash players. They didn't believe they had to take any responsibility. Secondly, we had to work on teacher capacity. And working on teacher capacity means giving teachers professional support to move beyond coaching for the examination into high quality classroom assessment practice. How do you ask the good questions? Student expectations was a key part of the change strategy, because students had come to quite accept a passive role in the classroom, and they didn't like being challenged. When the ball was passed to them in basketball, they were more interested in putting it down and writing notes down for the exam. Now the teacher didn't wait for a hand to go up to ask the question. The teacher would now call your name, whether or not you put your hand up, in the expectation that you were ready to get in the game. And the last point, that's extremely important, and will come up again when we hear from Isabel later on this morning, is we also had to align the rest of the system. Because if the rest of the education system, for example, if your transition into university was still based on one grade, then why would schools change? Why would they introduce more classroom-based assessment? If universities were only interested in your score and not how you played the basketball game, then school would be very difficult for schools to change. So you also had to line up other parts of the system, and that too was extremely challenging. Can I continue for a minute? 1 minute? 1 minute, okay. So on the PowerPoint presentation, you'll see that I've broken down the different elements of all of those components that were relevant for us in Ireland. For example, when it came to public engagement, it was extremely important that we got employers, the business community, to say we need more basketball players. We need people who can ask good questions, who can interrogate. So in an Irish context, our biggest employers are the tech industry. So we needed the head of Google, we needed the head of Intel, we needed the head of these big employers to come out and say, we need the basketball players, we don't need the table tennis players. And that's important for political buy-in, and it's important for parent buy-in. When it came to teacher capacity, it was extremely important that we gave teachers opportunities for professional dialogue with colleagues, that they had time to discuss their practice with other teachers, because previously all they discussed were the grades. And that is still an ongoing process in Ireland. When it came to student expectations, a key issue was that the students got a high quality curriculum. If the curriculum is completely irrelevant for the students, it's very difficult to persuade them to play basketball. Because if it's not engaging, they'll just go back to the teacher. And finally, and we'll talk about this in the session more, it was extremely important to line up the system and also to be resilient, because this is a change that takes time and it's necessary to stay on message. Now, more details of that are in the PowerPoint, but for now I'll say thank you for your attention, Gurav Mahaguv, and my contact details are there, and I look forward to further engagement in the style of basketball as the morning goes through and we discuss some of these issues in your systems and how you're making those changes. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Anne, for this very interactive. I think we played basketball
accidental
as well.
interaction. Apologies for the technical error.
For sharing with us the Irish